thanks for coming over here. We have our caucus meeting in the morning. I know we normally do it at the legislature, but I appreciate you being here. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today with our Minister of Technology and Innovation, Nate Glubish, as we share a new strategy that will position our province as the go-to destination for AI data centers. We may not always see it, but artificial intelligence plays a greater role in our everyday lives. AI is behind all of the newest technologies we rely on to make our lives better, simpler, safer. But as AI grows, the companies at the forefront of that AI technology need bigger and more powerful supercomputers to train better models in order to use AI to solve problems in new ways. And that means that they need more data centers, and they need bigger data centers. Since we formed government in 2019, we have been clear that Alberta is open for business. We've been working hard to create the right environment for investment and for business in every industry. So as we look at the growth of AI and the incredible opportunity that exists around it, we want to be part of it. We want those companies to build and expand right here in Alberta. That is at the heart of our AI data center strategy, and we believe they will. Alberta is home to a long line of innovators and free thinkers who know that if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Our government supports and encourages that kind of vision, and we work hard to attract like-minded innovators who recognize Alberta as a place to invest and as a destination where there is no limit to innovation and opportunity. We welcome the good jobs they create for Albertans and the contributions they make to our economies and our communities. And that's why we maintain the economic advantages investors are seeking. Like one of the most business-friendly environments in North America, where we continue to cut red tape and create policies that help businesses grow and thrive. Our corporate tax rate is the most competitive in Canada and better than in 44 U.S. states. And all of these economic advantages create one of three pillars that our strategy is founded on. Another is our ability to provide the massive, stable electric power that these centers require. This is where Alberta has another advantage over other jurisdictions when it comes to attracting investment. Our unique energy-only electricity market invites competitiveness and growth among power producers. But first, I want to assure you that even as we welcome the investment these centers will bring, our first priority will always be Albertans. As we pursue new opportunities through this strategy, we will not compromise the affordability and reliability of electricity for Albertans and local industries. That's a promise. We know the data centers require a lot of power. Again, our innovative world-class power sector offers advantages unseen in other jurisdictions. They have a proven track record of creating opportunities, solving challenges, and meeting the needs of Alberta families and businesses. The last pillar focuses on sustainable cooling, and here our climate plays a role. While we may bemoan the colder temperatures that Alberta winters bring, they are a benefit to data centers who can rely on Mother Nature to keep the computers cool as they run. Additionally, innovators in our province are already working on new cooling technology, so interested companies can benefit from that expertise. The strategy we're announcing today is a big step forward in growing our technology industry, but it's not our first step. Over the last 20 years, the Alberta government has invested over $1 billion to grow our technology industry. Our investment has helped create AI leaders, including the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, or AMI, back in 2002. AMI has helped put Alberta at the forefront of innovation and, notably, in 2017 became one of 3 centers of AI excellence in Canada's pan-Canadian AI strategy. There's no question Alberta is ready for the future, and our AI data center strategy is an important part of creating a future that looks incredibly bright. Now I'd like to invite Minister Nate Glubish to the podium to speak in more detail about the strategy.
Thank you, Premier, and thanks, everyone. Really excited to talk a little bit more about what the Premier just shared about Alberta's data center investment strategy that we're unveiling today. This is something that many of you know. I've been traveling across the U.S. talking to the biggest tech companies in the world, talking about what are their greatest needs and how can Alberta be a part of the solution to tackling their challenges. And this strategy that we're releasing today is a bold commitment to do exactly that. This is a bold commitment to growth, to innovation, and to economic development. But let me begin by framing the scale of the opportunity before us. Why does this matter? Why should Albertans care? Well, over the next 5 years, North America is going to see hundreds of billions of dollars of investment into building out these AI data centers and the corresponding power, electrical generation to power them. These AI data centers, these massive supercomputers, are the engines of innovation, and Alberta is uniquely positioned to host them. We are ready to lead. Why Alberta? Well, consider our strengths. We have virtually limitless natural gas. We have world-class expertise in energy production. And we have a pro-business environment that delivers what investors need most, speed and certainty. And when I talk to these tech companies who need these data centers, they tell me that the two biggest challenges they need to overcome right now is access to power at scale and speed to market. As the Premier mentioned, we can solve those problems like nobody else. We are committed to being a destination of choice for these investments all across North America. We know that this will create thousands of high-quality, high-paying jobs and attract billions of dollars of investment to our province. So in the next 5 years, I believe that Alberta can attract $100 billion or more across several AI data center projects. But this is more than just about infrastructure. This is about laying the foundation for a more diversified economy that leverages Alberta's unique assets to create long-term resilience. So let's talk for a second about what is in the strategy that we're releasing today. Our strategy is built on three key pillars. The first is power capacity. The second is sustainable cooling. And the third is economic growth. So first, on power capacity. Electricity is the lifeblood of AI data centers, and access to reliable, scalable power is critical. And there's nobody better equipped than Alberta to do exactly that. And that is why, as a part of our first phase of this strategy, we are going to be focusing on off-grid power generation to meet the immediate needs, and as the Premier said, without causing any compromise to the affordability and reliability of Alberta's electricity grid. Make no mistake, our commitment to affordability and reliability is unwavering. And that is why focusing on the fastest path forward with off-grid infrastructure will allow us to scale quickly and faster than many other jurisdictions. And in early 2025, we will roll out a second phase to our strategy that will outline our plan to offer streamlined grid-connected and grid-supported options for infrastructure approvals, ensuring that we can scale not just for the next year, not just the next couple of years, but for the next 5 to 10 years and meet the needs of this fast-growing industry. Data centers also generate significant heat, and so that is why the second pillar of our strategy is all about sustainable cooling. And our strategy talks about taking the most common sense approach on a project-by-project basis, leaving maximum flexibility to balance the needs of environmental responsibility and efficiency of operations. And we know that our cold weather climate offers enormous advantages over other jurisdictions. And so we're excited to be able to use made in Alberta technology where it makes sense, and to partner with these investors to implement the most common sense cooling technology that will be absolutely sustainable. And this is something that we can do uniquely in Alberta that other jurisdictions simply cannot. Finally, the strategy is third pillar is about economic opportunity. And by building these AI data centers here, we are not just creating infrastructure, we are fostering innovation and establishing Alberta as a hub for high-tech industries. We know that these investments will generate enormous opportunities for incremental tax revenues, whether that be natural gas royalties, whether that be corporate income tax, whether that be municipal property tax, whether that be new personal income tax on the increased jobs. This is good news for Albertans because those incremental taxes will help to fund important services like healthcare and education and the other services Albertans rely on every day. But this also will create enormous opportunity because the computational infrastructure from these data centers is going to be critically important for the next generation of tech companies. And those companies are going to want to be located in jurisdictions that have access to this infrastructure. And so we're going to see a ripple effect of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit that is going to be extremely exciting. So in closing, I want to assure every Albertan that this strategy is designed with you in mind. We are committed to protecting the affordability and reliability of Alberta's electricity grid, and we are committed to ensuring that this growth does not come at the expense of your household budget. But by doing this by design, by putting the right due diligence in place and having a comprehensive strategy that sends a signal to the world of exactly how we're going to do business here, we can make sure that we deliver great results for every single Albertan. We're not just talking the talk on this. One of the things that we are already doing that is outlined in our strategy is the concierge service, the concierge program. This is something run out of my Department of Technology and Innovation. We are working with every single major project proponent that is interested in building a data center in the province today to help them navigate our regulatory framework and to help streamline that process. And in some cases, we've been able to work with them to reduce approval times by nearly 50%. This is proof that Alberta is open for business. So as we look ahead with the launch of the strategy, I invite global investors and technology leaders to join us here in Alberta. Let us show you what we're made of. You won't regret it. By embracing this opportunity to bring AI data centers to Alberta, our province will continue to be a powerhouse for innovation. And by working directly with investors, we can position Alberta to be a global leader when it comes to AI data centers. We know we've got a great story to tell, and we're just getting started. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. We're now going to turn some questions from the media. It'll be one question, one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet for the record, and we'll start here in the room, then we'll go to the phone. Sean?
Hi, Sean with City News. A question for the Premier, please. So Donald Trump has recently joked about Canada becoming the 51st state. There's hope that maybe that signals a friendship there and a softening stance on tariffs. So what do you make of that joke, and what's the latest on Alberta's relationship with the U.S.?
Well, I think President Trump is hilarious and was making a joke. And I would say, when I've been interviewed on it, I've said that America is a strong country, Canada is a strong country, and we have a strong partnership. We have a history of working together, not just in trade, but also in collective national defense. We've fought wars together, and we're going to continue to be independent. I would say that we have to address some very real issues, not only for Canada, but it's also clearly an issue for the United States of illegal migrants, the cross-border trade in drugs, as well as meeting our 2% NATO target. And it seems to me that we have to take the incoming president seriously when he's talking about those things being an irritant to trade. So if we can address those by having proper border security and by meeting our NATO commitment, I suspect that we'll have a very strong relationship, as we always have with America. But we have to address those issues.
So you're headed to a governor's meeting next week. You're not a governor, obviously. So why is it important for Alberta to send a crew of 8 people to Las Vegas? And do you think border security will be on your agenda?
Obviously, in the United States, the governor is an equivalent position. In Canada, we call them premiers, but it's an equivalent position. We have many conferences that we attend with our U.S. counterparts. Many of them are MLA meetings. We've got the Council of State Governments. We've got the PENWAR meetings. So it's not unusual for Canadian politicians to participate in those events. The Western Governors Conference gives me an opportunity to be on a panel. I'll be speaking about what we've learned in our wildfire seasons and how to fight wildfires and the insurance implications on that. And many of the Western U.S. states have similar challenges. So that'll be one of the reasons that I'm going. I'll also aim to have a number of bilateral agreements with different states where we can talk about our common interests. You have to remember, Alberta has a $188 billion trade relationship with the United States. Our next closest trade relationship is with China, which is $10 billion. Our relationship with Mexico is $2.9 billion. So the relationship we have with American states, I would say, is the most important trade relationship that we have. And the governors are going to be our largest advocates in talking about the need to keep those trade ties open and tariff-free so that they can get a reliable supply of energy to fuel their economies, their industries, and make sure that their consumers pay lower prices. So that'll be the message that I take down, is that I'm looking for allies. I was also recently asked to join the Governor's Council on Energy Security with 12 other governors, and that'll be another venue that we'll be able to continue to advance that interest. I spoke at the CERAWeek conference last year. I intend to go again this year, so I'll be spending a lot of time in the United States.
I asked about the border security, the latest on that, and will that be on your agenda? Can you just address that, please?
Yes, I've mentioned that I've actually tasked Mike Ellis with working with his counterpart in Montana on identifying ways that we can share information cross-border. I have a call scheduled with the Montana Governor, Giannaforte, to talk about it. We've previously in the past written a joint letter to have a 24-hour border crossing at Wild Horse Crossing. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to revisit that. And we'll obviously keep on working with our federal counterparts, CBSA, as well as RCMP, to see how we might be able to add to the border effort. I'm hoping to see a plan from the federal government very soon, and we will certainly do our part to make sure that that our part of the American border is well protected.
Shaylan Skolsky with CTV News Edmonton. Thanks for taking my question for the Premier. Upon the 3 bills relating to trans youth passing debate in third reading last night, Egal Canada and Skipping Stones say they will be moving forward with legal challenges against each of those bills. I'm wanting to get to your response to this action, and will you be invoking the notwithstanding clause?
I don't believe we'll have to. I think that both the Charter as well as our Bill of Rights has the ability to make decisions and make policy that can be seen to be reasonable, that is evidence-based, and I think that the decisions that we made are both of those things. The CAS report that came about demonstrated after 4 years of research that there are a significant lack of evidence about what the long-term impact are on kids, and so we think a cautious approach is the one to take. We also know that it is not unusual to put limitations on children about the kind of decisions that they're able to make that will affect their health. We don't allow them to smoke. We don't allow them to do drugs. We don't allow them to drive. And so we think that making permanent, unalterable, or permanent decisions that will affect one's fertility is an adult decision. And I think that will pass the reasonable test.
And for my follow-up, just switching gears slightly, today may be the last day of the fall sitting. You have faced some criticism from Albertans who say they wanted to see more support from your government on things like affordability and access to health care. Wondering what you can point to, I guess, in the last 6 weeks that you've done to help them and what you want them to remember from this session.
Well, we've had 3 budgets that we've brought forward that have established policies and spending and a direction that have massively impacted the lives of Albertans for the better. The $15 a day daycare that most of our parents are able to get, that saves families $700 per child per month. That's a major a break that they have to put more dollars in their pocket. We also have an overall initiative that we brought forward on electricity that is now beginning to see the fruition, going from 32 cents a kilowatt hour now down to 12 cents a kilowatt hour or less. That's a massive change, and there'll be more that will come on electricity. We have also had a number of the indexation decisions that we made were very important. Not only does that help with our personal income taxes, where every year by indexing you're not seeing inflation eating away at your purchasing power, but also for those who rely on government services. We have about 7 or 8 programs that we index. That's going to put a lot more money in their hands. We continue to support food banks. We continue to have the low-income transit pass. We have brought through a 25% seniors discount that's going to be ongoing, and we're looking to expand that. So I would say that the decisions that we've made in the past have made lives more affordable. Today we continue to have the highest income on a per worker basis, highest average weekly earnings, highest workforce participation rate, lowest taxes. Creating that environment and maintaining that environment is vitally important for affordability. The best thing that could happen for affordability is for the federal government to end its carbon tax. And that's something that we have advocated for. When you look at the cost in a liter of fuel, 35 cents of it is because of federal taxes. Their fuel tax, their carbon tax, and their GST. When you look at your home heating bill, the cost of the carbon tax is 4 times the cost of natural gas, which is really important going into the winter season. So we can only do so much to counteract bad federal policy. The solution is for the federal government to come through and give genuine affordability measures, and we think ending the carbon tax is the way to do that.
Lisa?
Lisa Johnson, the Canadian Press. I just wanted to follow up on one of Shaylan's questions, because you're saying you don't think that that you'll have to use a notwithstanding clause on these trans bills, but you think they're solid. But are you willing to invoke the notwithstanding clause? Are you willing to go that far to ensure that these remain law if a court says that they're unconstitutional?
I don't want to prejudge the court outcome. I can tell you that we will put forward a robust case that this is reasonable in a free and democratic society, that it's evidence-based, and that we're protecting children and their right to be able to make adult decisions as adults. So we'll put forward the robust case, and then we'll see what happens in the court.
And just on that same topic, the Canadian Canadian Civil Liberties Association disagrees with you there. They say the passage of these intrusive laws will severely erode the liberty of individuals and families to make deeply personal decisions about their lives. We don't need more government overreach into the private lives of its residents. It sounds like they're also going to be seeking intervenor status in the Egal and Skipping Stone Foundation lawsuit. I wonder how you would respond to those concerns from people who value just civil liberty.
We have, I think, got the right balance. We understand that puberty blockers are if you take them before you've gone through puberty, it means that you won't be able to have children. I don't believe that 10-year-olds can make that decision. I think most parents don't believe that 10-year-olds can make that decision either. We want to be able to preserve the ability for anyone to make that choice as an adult. And that is why when you're 15 and under, the rules will be a little bit different than when you're 16 and over. And because 16 is that age where we believe that kids are beginning to understand the consequences of their actions. I find it very interesting that one of the debates that we were having on a different bill in the legislature, the NDP agreed that the brain is still forming when you're a child. In fact, it's still forming up until age 25. And so if you're going to make the argument that kids can't make certain decisions because they don't have high executive function and they don't understand the consequences all the way up to 25, you certainly can't argue that they should make these kinds of life-changing decisions at age 10. That's why I say I think the evidence is there about brain development. I think the evidence there is about understanding when is an appropriate time to make adult decisions. I think we have a very common understanding that parents have the ability to make decisions on behalf of their kids until they become of an age to make them themselves. And that's what we'll be prepared to bring forward in court.
Okay, we have time for one more in the room, then we're going to go to the phones.
Cabby Mount there with Global. Thanks for taking my questions. We'll start off with the sports minister saying that the former head of the Edmonton Elks football team will lead the committed task with improving athlete safety in combative sports. Can you just get your reaction and your comment on whether that was the smartest move?
I don't know much about the individual, but I do know that we've now had 2 deaths that have occurred in combat sports in our province. I think one in 2017 and one just recently. And that's a pretty clear signal that there does need to be some regulation around this. So I'm pleased to see that Minister Scow has taken the initiative to start doing that investigation, see if we can put best practices in place. People want to be able to enjoy combat sports, but they also want to be able to safely go home as well. And so if there are measures that we can take to improve oversight and to put some guidelines in to make sure that everybody has a safe outcome, then I think that's the role of our sports minister. And I defer to his judgment on who should be on that committee.
Okay. And then follow up just regarding the data centers. I mean, we kind of talked about the phases that are in place. There was kind of a call out for global investors. So is anything confirmed, I guess, in terms of whether there are these structures that we've built or anything in that front, or?
I'll let Minister Glubish talk about it. The reason we realized that we needed to create a framework is we have so much interest in the province in investing in these kinds of data centers. And we want to make sure that we don't have different rules in different parts of the province, that everybody understands what the access to electricity will be, that there's a preference for low water usage. That was what the minister was talking about alternatives to cooling. There are some data centers that use glycol instead of water, which I think we're pretty enthusiastic about, because if you can find a way to have the cheap power and limit your water use and then be able to take advantage of the colder climate, those are things that are definitely going to be an attraction, I think. But let me turn it over to Glubish, and he can tell you what the opportunity would be.
Yeah, thanks, Premier. I can tell you we're talking to all of the household names of all the biggest tech companies in the world. They all have an interest in building significant infrastructure, and they know that Alberta has a lot to offer. And they're very excited to work with us to explore specific projects here. And so my concierge team is working with probably about 10 or 12 different companies right now on different projects. And we're going to keep working closely with them to help advance their projects. We want to, again, make sure that these make sense for Alberta. We want to make sure that nothing will compromise reliability or affordability of our grid. and we want to make sure that Albertans are going to benefit through incremental tax revenues from this infrastructure that gets built. And we believe that by working arm in arm with these investors and with these project proponents, that we can get a win-win for everybody, and especially a win for Alberta.
Great. We have time for a couple more questions, so we're going to go to the phones. Operator, first caller, please.
Your first caller comes from the line of Rick Bell from Post Media. Your line is now open.
Good morning. A question for the Premier. I'll have a question and then I will have a supplementary. The question is, the NDP voted no to your Sovereignty Act motion, and yesterday the NDP leader, Mr. Nenshi, talked about how he thought it was play acting, that it would do nothing, that it was just for show, that it actually gets us further away from what the oil patch needs. And I also believe, I don't think there was an NDP MLA that even spoke to the motion. So what is your reaction to the fact that the NDP voted no to the Sovereignty Act motion you had?
Well, I would love to see the NDP finally stand up for Alberta and be on Team Alberta rather than Team Trudeau, because it's very, very clear that this is an attack on our industry. It's very clear from the statements of the federal environment minister, even the federal energy minister. Their objective is to keep our production in the ground. And there's no margin, I don't think, in a party that represents Alberta and Alberta interests and steward this resource on behalf of all taxpayers to side with Trudeau on this. So we invited them to send a very strong message that that they believe in the Constitution, that they believe in in our obligation collectively as government officials to make sure that we maintain authority over the production and development of this resource for the benefit of all Albertans, and they declined. But I feel very confident that what we are doing is going to protect our industry. It's going to allow us to double our oil and gas production, which is what I have aspirationally put out there. We still have we're at the lead in technology to be able to capture and sequester CO2, so we'll be able to address emissions in a different way. And I think Albertans and industry are behind us on this one.
And the supplementary, which follows from your answer, at the same scrum, Mr. Nenshi was asked about how he's often coupled by the UCP with Prime Minister Trudeau. And he advised you that it was not the right thing to just say you're either for Trudeau or against Trudeau, that you should get new talking points and you should stop blaming Trudeau and him for everything. So he objects to this. Well, what is your view of that?
Look, you have a choice. You either stand up for Alberta's energy sector or you stand up for the punitive policies coming through by the Trudeau government. It is the Trudeau government, propped up by the NDP, that are attacking our province, that are making it illegal to talk about our emissions record, that is passing policy that would shut in production, that would compromise our ability to pay for the programs that Albertans care about. And so that is the choice that's on the table. We may see a change in government at the federal level, at which point we'll have a new partner and hopefully have a more constructive relationship. But we don't have that right now. We have attempted over the last 2 years to try to get alignment on our strategy of increasing production and reducing emissions, and they continue to refuse to work with us. So you've got a choice when you're an opposition leader. You can side with Alberta or you can side with Trudeau. He's chosen to side with Trudeau.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. So, operator, next caller, please.
Your next caller comes from the line of Michelle Belfontaine from CBC. Your line is open.
Oh, hi there. Thanks for taking my question. I have a question from my Fort McMurray colleague. I'm not sure if the Premier wants to answer this one or if the Minister would like to. So he's asking, in the past, you guys have said that Wood Buffalo would benefit from the province's AI strategy because the region has the energy to fuel data centers and cold weather would cool them down. So I'm wondering, in terms of the new AI strategy, are there places that the government has in mind to locate those AI centers?
I would say that anywhere that has a nearby natural gas resource is probably going to be the biggest beneficiary of the AI data center strategy. as well as those that have the ability to develop their own power. The reference to Fort McMurray is a bit of an inspiration because the oil sands companies developed behind the fence electricity, meaning they developed their own electricity so that they could develop their resource, and then they developed surplus electricity, which they sold back into the grid. And we think that that's a model that will work for AI data centers. That if companies want to be able to get approval quickly, and they have a partnership to develop their own power, and then they work with us to sell their excess, I think everybody wins from that kind of strategy. So Fort McMurray may well be one of those centers. Grand Prairie is certainly one of those centers. Central Alberta is certainly an opportunity, as well as over in my neck of the woods in Medicine Hat is also an opportunity. We happen to be a natural gas basin. We've got 200 trillion cubic feet of gas. And so really anywhere that has the ability to tap into that resource and get the infrastructure close by, I think is going to benefit. Did you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Premier. So it's a great question. And what I would just say to add to that is that, is to revisit some of the points I made earlier, which is that the folks building this infrastructure care about speed to market. That's super important. And so those municipalities that aim to join the province in our theme of red tape reduction, in accelerated approvals, in introducing more certainty and confidence and investor confidence. Those are the municipalities that are going to be leaders and the destinations of choice within Alberta. And so in the same way that my concierge program is offering support to folks who want to build this infrastructure and to operate it, we are also offering support to municipalities to say, if you think your municipality could be a great host to these types of projects, come talk to my team. We'll work with you. We'll coach you. We'll show you exactly what these folks want to see. And we'll work with you to put your strongest foot forward so that you can increase the chances of being host to some really exciting investment in your home community.
Thanks for that. And just as a follow-up, my colleague wants to know a little bit more specifically what benefit would Buffalo and Fort McMurray could derive from these centers.
When you think about the construction and all of the workers that would be required to build those and then operate them afterwards, as well as the auxiliary services that could develop around, one of the benefits that happens is on the personal and corporate income taxes that these installations would play. But for municipalities in particular, they charge property taxes and they charge machinery and equipment taxes. And that is normally on the value of the equipment that's on an installation. So I can see this being a brand new source of revenue. So if you can imagine having a 1,000 megawatt power plant co-located with all of the equipment to support a 1,000 megawatt data center, that is a lot of land and a lot of value that would be able to be subject to that kind of industrial taxation. So I think there's a really great value proposition for municipalities to host these kinds of installations.
Operator, next caller, please.
Your next caller comes from the line of Chris Varco from Calgary Herald. Your line is now open.
Hi, this is a question for the Premier. Premier, if a 25% tariff is eventually applied by the United States on Alberta oil and gas, what is the province's expectation on the impact that it's going to have on government revenues, and what would your plan be to try and mitigate that effect?
The first step is helping Americans understand just how much they benefit from the fact that we export some 4.3 million barrels a day into their market, and that their refineries are purposed specifically for our Canadian blend of Western Canada Select, and that it's not easy to replace. If you try to replace it, you're looking at countries like Venezuela and Iraq and Iran. And so that's one of the arguments that we'll make. But secondly, I've seen some analysis that suggests that a 25% tariff, because we are such a substantial supplier to the United States, would end up increasing gasoline prices by up to $1 a gallon. And so that's going to have a big impact on American consumers, especially since one of the new administration's policies is to try to keep those energy prices low. So we want, I think, our friends in the United States to understand that we jointly benefit. We benefit from the production and the supply. They benefit from the lower prices. what would we do here? I guess it would be I'd have to see. I mean, it's an extraordinary tariff on our exports. If it was at 10%, it would have been $16.9 billion across the board on everything that we export. So do 2.5 times that, and it'd be an extraordinary hardship for our economy to have to pay that particular price, and it may take a little while before American producers consumers would find another source, but eventually that kind of price differential would have a devastating impact here. So I just don't think that. I think we can lead with the discussion about energy. I think that that's actually our strong suit. And it may well be that having energy security, energy affordability is the key to ensuring that all Canadian goods are tariff-free. That's the approach that we're taking with our friends and allies among the premiers, and it's the message that I'll be taking down to the United States as well.
Chris, do you have a follow-up?
And just to follow up, Premier, and turning to data centers, has the province done any estimates on how much natural gas might actually be used by the expansion of the data centers in the province? And conversely, what impact will that have upon Alberta's climate plan to reach net zero emissions by 2050?
Yeah, great question, Chris. So we're still working on some of those numbers, but we know it's a big impact. If we're able to bring in thousands of megawatts of new data center infrastructure and the corresponding natural gas power generation, we're talking a significant increase in domestic demand for natural gas. This is good news for Alberta because it's going to create significant increased drilling, exploration, and production activity in rural Alberta. It's going to allow for increased distribution investment to get the gas to the different markets that need it. And it's going to generate significant incremental natural gas royalty revenues for the benefit of all Albertans. When the Premier talks about wanting to double oil and gas production over the next number of years, this is going to play a significant role in helping us to get there. In terms of the emissions profile, yes, it's true that all of the data center project proponents have an ESG strategy and that this is important to them. But what is most important to them right now is speed to market. They need to get this infrastructure built and they need to electrify it and turn it on. We can help them with that. But what we can also offer them is the most cost-effective net zero option, and that is carbon capture paired with natural gas. We can offer net zero natural gas power generation in Alberta for a fraction of the cost of nuclear energy. And that is really, it's either nuclear or hydro that are the only other net zero options that can produce the power reliably. And those projects are going to take 10 to 15 years to build. It's not going to take that long for natural gas. So the fact is, these folks need our natural gas. They need it right now. And the good news is we have the smartest people alive on planet Earth today in the field of carbon capture right here in Alberta that can help them achieve their net zero goals.
Great. We have time for one more question, so operator, last caller, please.
Your last caller comes from the line of Colin Gallant from Medicine Hat News. Your line is now open.
Great. Thank you very much for taking the question. I'm looking at the ISO website right now and data load requests. And we're talking about, they have 7 gigawatts of requests in the queue right now, and apparently more on the way. So, we're talking about a 50% increase in demand for power in the province. How can you avoid inflation, either in prices or in, commissioning or construction of this sector?
This is why when we talk about behind the fence, what we're meaning by that is if you want to get fast approval, bring your own power. The model that we're attempting to get the AI proponents to know is that they will be able to get faster approval if they have a partner who will build them the power as they need it, and hopefully overbuild so that we'd be able to get them connected to our power grid so that they can export to us. That's the model that worked in Fort McMurray, and that's the model that we think will work here. Because when we say that we are going to take an approach that protects Alberta consumers first, we are not going that. We meant that. We know what the baseload need of Alberta consumers are on our coldest day, it's about 12,000 megawatts. And so anything that we have above that incrementally is going to have to be new power that we're adding in. And we should be aspirational about this. There's no reason why in our market, why we can't continue to attract and grow our power base. We've seen that in other provinces. Quebec has always been a net exporter of electricity, as has Ontario, as has British Columbia, as has Manitoba. The fact that other provinces have produced surplus energy to their needs is something we should look at as inspiration here. We should have surplus energy to our needs, and that would allow for us to be able to make sure consumers are protected at the same time as be able to fuel the significant growth that's happening here. The other thing is, we have to look at the speed of scale up. One of the companies that I've spoken with recently who is contemplating a $2.5 billion investment in 256 megawatts when they're built out, they want to start with about 56 megawatts and then scale up over 10 years to get to the 256. So we have the ability to accommodate, I believe, a certain number of projects, knowing that more will come on stream as their power needs are accelerating. So I think that we are perfectly situated from a private power market point of view to have that joint investment happening at the same time. But the overriding principle that we have is that we've got to make sure that we protect prices for Alberta consumers, because that helps our entire market. One of the advantages that you can have in being able to provide a stable business climate is you've got predictable low power rates and predictable low heating rates. And that's the reason why when we put the strategy forward, we're asking for AI data centers to be looking at and bringing additional power to the market. Did you want to add?
So the Premier's bang on, and just to provide a little bit of extra context, you're right, there's a large volume of applications in the queue with the Alberta Electrical Systems Operator, or the ISO. And in Alberta, we've always been good at doing heavy industry at scale. Our oil and gas sector has been the foundation of that for a generation. But the fact is that our system was designed for a certain level of industrial activity. And what we are seeing from these data centers, the power demands are just so exponentially larger that we need to put some time and energy into revising how we're going to deal with this so that we can grow and scale, but we can do so responsibly in a way that does not compromise affordability or reliability of the grid. We know we can do it. Alberta is a can-do province. We know how to get stuff done. We know how to solve tough problems. And that's why we've broken the strategy out into two phases. The first phase is focusing on the low-hanging fruit of fast approvals and the concierge service for the off-grid infrastructure. We're going to continue working with those folks who are in the queue today, looking for grid-connected or grid-supported infrastructure. And then we're going to also work with Minister Neudorf in the Affordability and Utilities Ministry to bring forward recommendations on what Phase 2 will contain, which is a path forward to say, how do we scale the grid-supported infrastructure in a way that is responsible? We know we can do it, and if we do it right, the opportunity for Albertans is enormous, because we can create so much economic investment and benefit, create so many jobs, bring in more tax revenues, build a stronger and more stable grid. And so we're confident we can get the job done. We're committed to doing the hard work and the heavy lifting, and just stay tuned for early 2025. We'll have more to say on what Phase 2 looks like.
Colin, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. Another issue for ISO right now is a congestion study that is, describing millions of megawatts of electricity being curtailed, especially in the south region. Does that strategy will the solution to that play in at all to this strategy? Otherwise, we're talking about line upgrades.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is something that Minister Neudorf and I are looking at very closely. The fact is there are spots across our grid in different regions where the amount of load or demand for the power is not matched with the power generation, and as a result, sometimes you have power being generated that's not being used, and that's bad news for Albertans. That's bad for Alberta ratepayers, because the cost of that waste has to be borne by somebody. And so this is why phase 2 of our strategy is so important. By doing the heavy lifting and the homework to say, where are the pockets in Alberta where there's congestion? Could we pair a data center that is right-sized for that excess power and match it in a way that will not compromise reliability or affordability of the grid? We believe there are some pockets in the province where there's some great opportunities to introduce data centers that are fit for purpose, that will use up that congested supply. And the good news for Albertans is that if we get that right, their power bill is going to come down. Their transmission costs are going to come down. This is great news. There were some questions earlier today about what are we doing as a government on affordability. What I would tell you is we're leaving no stone unturned. We're taking a technology file like this and saying, how can we find a way to generate economic benefit? Yes, but also this is a way to reduce costs for every single Albertan across the province. So there's an enormous opportunity on the congestion in the network to pair that with the data center strategy here, and we're really excited to do that work.
Okay, thanks everyone. That's all the time we have today.
Thanks, everyone.